my department and the resource that we are for the Marathon County region. We are a solid waste facility that actually serves 19 counties in central and north central Wisconsin. Now, that doesn't mean we take all of the garbage from 19 counties. That would be a massive, massive landfill. Rather, we have customers in 19 counties that we do provide solid waste disposal services or other solid waste services, education and outreach, et cetera. So we are regional. We are here to serve the people of central and north central Wisconsin. And we do all of that with a budget of between $4 and $8 million a year. And we never, ever use a single penny of county tax levy. We are a business enterprise run within county government. Every dime that we use to provide not only our solid waste disposal services, but all of our education and outreach and all of the other programs I'm going to show you about in a little bit come from the fees that we charge for our services. So I get the best of both worlds. I get to run a business, but I also get to employ, the philosophies of a government providing a service to support people to protect human health and the environment. Next slide. There's the contact information for the Marathon County Solid Waste Department. If you don't know where we are, we're on Highway 29 east of Wausau, about 16 miles. We are on the north side of Highway 29, midway between Ringel and Hatley. And we have a great big sign out by the road. If you haven't been out by us as you're traveling east on Highway 29, you should see that sign. That's where we are. And we always love people to come and visit us. Even if you don't have things to dispose of, you can call ahead and we can arrange to have a member of my staff show you around the site and explain everything that we do. We have a toll-free number for those of you who are not local, and that goes to our solid waste and recycling information line. I have staff there that will answer all of your questions. Or if you wish to send your questions directly to me, there's the information at the bottom. Please feel free to do so. I am always happy to hear from folks and answer questions, help you out with problems, or just share information. You may frequently, I will get, after presentations like this, I hear from people and they'll send me a link to an article that they've read and that I've not even seen. And so sharing of information is great both ways. Next slide. So our primary business, as you can imagine, is solid waste disposal. It's our primary economic driver for the department. It accounts for the largest portion of our budget. And again, we take in everything from the stuff that you put in your household garbage to the demolition of large buildings to contaminated soils. And when I say contaminated soils, I'm not talking about hazardous soils. I'm talking about soils that may have been contaminated with chemicals ages ago, or we frequently will get someone, a farmer, for instance, who has a hydraulic line that breaks, and now the soil beneath the tractor is contaminated with all that hydraulic fluid, and they will scoop that up and bring it to us for solid waste disposal. We also provide solid waste disposal for industry in our area. So we have customers like Lignotech and Linetech and the paper mills, Crystal Finishing. Our landfill disposal services are a primary economic driver for the region, because if our industries do not have disposal options that are convenient and affordable, they cannot operate. And in fact, many of the businesses that we work with, the industries, tell us that without our services, they cannot expand their businesses. And we're working with 2 businesses right now on what it will look like as they expand and our capabilities to handle that. Next slide. One of our more popular program is our household hazardous waste program. So that is basically all those cleaners and solvents and the old oil-based paint and those pesticides and You know, I've got one in my garage, and I went in there last night because I was looking for some pesticide to kill a bunch of ants who decided to build a mound underneath my patio. And some of this stuff is so old. And in fact, labels are falling off, and it's time to take them to the hazardous waste facility. So this is a program that is without charge to Marathon County residents. We use the profits from our landfill disposal to pay for this program for Marathon County residents. You may, if you're cleaning out your garage or your basement, you're helping someone do that, you can give us a call and schedule an appointment to bring those items in, and we will see that they are properly destroyed. Most of them will be burned at a very high temperature to destroy the hazards in those materials. We also have a universal waste program, and that includes things like sharps and alkaline batteries, bulbs, electronics, a lot of different things. Basically, if you've got a product you don't know what to do with, we probably can tell you what to do with it and figure out a way to manage it. And just before I leave this slide, what you see on the right side where those items are on a rack, we have what's called, it's an exchange area. It's choose to reuse. So as my staff goes through the stuff that you decide to bring to us, you no longer need it, someone else might. And so if it is still good and it hasn't been banned from use in the United States, we will put it on this shelf. And if you're in the area, you're welcome anytime to come in and shop. You can pick it up for free. And there are things in there like pool chemicals and pesticides, bug sprays, cleaners, all kinds of stuff. One time we had a guy came in and brought in 5 gallons of driveway sealer. He overestimated the amount he needed, and he had opened all of them, and the vendor or the retailer wouldn't take them back. He brought them to us, and some lucky person got a bunch of driveway sealer without charge. So it's just another way for us to try and figure out how to reduce our overall impact on the environment. Next slide. We do have a lot of other programs. As you can see, the one that says plastic film recycling. My staff, and I'm apologizing for my dogs in advance because there are probably very, very dangerous people on the sidewalk. And Dash is going to protect us all from that. So we've set up a system of plastic film recycling throughout the county, actually into Wood County, Clark County, Shawano County, at retailers. Please do not put plastic film in your recycling. This program is part of a national program, and it was shut down on the early part of COVID because there was uncertainty about the spread of the virus on these kind of things. And the retailers said, we don't want them in the stores right now. Slowly but surely, we're starting to see the retailers set up these bins at their entryways and at the entry to the stores or their vestibules. So this program is coming back. So please take your plastic film to these locations, and they will see that they are recycled properly. We do a lot of composting education. In fact, next week, we're getting a semi-load of compost bins that we do sell, and we will be doing composting workshops over the summer. Those will probably still be virtual, but I do have on-staff master composters who are quite expert in helping people learn how to best compost in their backyard and make sure that they don't have nasty smells or kind of nasty pests coming into their compost bin. So we do a lot of education related to that. We do have a recycling bin loan program. So if you have an event and you want to set up recycling bins for your event, you can borrow these, take them out, bring them back, and you can use them for collecting the recycling at your events. Most frequently, or most visibly, this program is used at the Central Wisconsin, or not Central Wisconsin Fair, Wisconsin Valley Fair, where we work with the fair board to make sure that materials at the fair are recycled. And then our community engagement programs are everything from this program we were on with the Village of Weston to try and get people to recycle right by having a contest, work with the City of Wausau on a bunch of programs. We've worked with Mosinee. We work with schools, we work with businesses. We do a lot of environmental consulting for municipalities on projects where they're looking to clean up old sites. So we have a wide variety of programs that we provide to the community as a part of our overall mission, once again, to protect human health and the environment. Next slide.
Melissa, before we
Sure.
head to the next slide, we do have a couple questions.
Sure, go ahead.
Explain what plastic film is.
So plastic film is everything from the bag in which your bread is in to the plastic bag that you're going to get at the retail store for your groceries. So the plastic film recycling program includes all of those. And if you look at that little picture up in that upper right or upper left-hand corner, you can see there's a bag there with that held tortillas at one time. There's a bread bag there. There's a wrapper there that was around a bunch of bottles of water. Your toilet paper rolls are all wrapped in this large wrapper. Sure. Those are all the kind of things that fall under the category of plastic film. And it should never, ever, ever go in your recycling bin. We really don't like them in the garbage either, because once they hit the landfill, they end up in trees when the wind is blowing. Sure. But the best recycling option is to take all of that plastic film and take it to those retail locations where they do send that out for recycling as part of this national program. Now, there's some exclusions. Any plastic that is for freezer products that you're going to store in your freezer, so frozen peas, those chicken tenders, those are excluded from this. Those do have to go into the garbage. And anything that's cellophane. So if it doesn't, so when you hold it and it's not able to stretch, you pull it a little or pull it, at a diagonal, and it doesn't have some give, it has to go into the garbage. So we are mostly looking for, again, those bread wrappers, those wrappers around toilet paper, paper toweling, and other food wrappers that are not for the freezer. So does that help explain that?
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right.
And then the second question was, is there a cost to use the recycling bin? I see it says loan, but there was a question if it costs money to use those.
It does not. We call it a loan program because we do have our customers. So you can take them and use them for free. We provide the special plastic bags. We call it a loan because we have had some that did not come back. And we do have our customers sign a little waiver. We have their name and address, and those people who didn't return them, one had a party and somebody walked off with why they did that, I suppose, a couple too many beers, and they thought that recycling bin was pretty attractive, but they get charged. So we call it a loan program because it is our property. If you don't return it, we will bill you for it. But if you use it, bring it back, there is no fee at all.
Awesome. And I see Diane Flieger does have a question. Diane, did you want to unmute yourself to ask the question?
Okay. Are the bread bags that have a paper label on them, like the ones you get in the bakery at the grocery store, are those recyclable?
Yes. Don't worry about that. Those can go in with your plastic film.
You just leave the label on there?
Yes.
It doesn't. Okay.
Yep. When those go off, so they're going to be mixed with all of those different plastics are actually different resins. Most of them are what's called low density polyethylene. There are some that may fall into the polypropylene, but they'll all go together and be all mixed up. They're going to go off to a sorting facility they use these sensors that are able to detect the type of resins that they are and separate them. Once they're separated, they get chipped up. And once they're chipped up, they are washed and rinsed, and all of that paper comes off and floats away as part of the process. So good question.
Renee has a question. Does the plastic film have to have the recycling emblem to be recyclable?
It does not. And here's the dirty little truth about the recycling chasing arrows. They mean nothing. And I know that's going to come as a shock to many, but it is the chasing arrows was designed by, it was initially intended to help people have a better understanding of the different resins, the number 1s through 7s. What the plastics recycling or the plastics industry, the chemical industry did went, hey, this is a great way to kind of greenwash our industry to make it look like we're doing the right thing. The chasing arrows are not regulated by any entity. And there is no regulation that says just because you put it on there and it says, you know, number 1 or number 5, there is no regulatory body that will check to make sure that that product actually is that type of resin. So we tell people to ignore the chasing arrows. And I know, again, I know that's hard because we have been so indoctrinated to the chasing arrows, but what's happening is more and more companies are starting to use the chasing arrows as a way to greenwash their products. We had one the other day, and it was a customer had called a colleague of mine, and she shared it out with our network. It was a toothpaste tube, and of course there is the little chasing arrow on it, except that it was made with a number of complex resins, and no recycling facility in the state of Wisconsin will accept that. So the chasing arrows are, if we can stop looking at the chasing arrows and start looking for some of these other clues, like I said, grab that plastic. If you're able to kind of stretch it, pull it at a diagonal, and it moves, it's a plastic film that can go into these plastic film recycling bins. If it doesn't move, it doesn't have that flexibility, if it's more rigid like a cellophane would be, it has to go into the garbage. So that is the kind of the big key. Just because it does not have a chasing arrow doesn't mean anything. And even if it has a chasing arrow, it does not mean anything. I know that sounds complicated, but that is the story.
Okay. And Jackie wants to know if there is a list of what is included in these different categories. Is there somewhere we can find, you know, an all-inclusive list? And I think she's talking, go ahead.
Oh, you mean of the plastic film?
Jackie, were you thinking plastic film, or when you say categories as in the different, all of them, all the recyclables, like nice.
That would be a really wonderful idea. However, manufacturers are always coming up with ways to package the materials that we buy. And that changes so often, and we get caught by surprise. So us solid waste and recycling professionals, some of us in the business 20, 25, 30 years, all of a sudden there's a new product being packaged with some sort of fancy design, and it's a mix of paper and plastic and maybe even a little metal. And all of a sudden the whole system kind of changes. There is not an all-inclusive list. Now we can have general categories, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But I wish there was. Recycling is, while it is a science, because there is science behind it, it's kind of an art form. And, you know, in art, everything is interpretive. So if you do something wrong and something ends up in the garbage, or something inadvertently ends up in the recycling that shouldn't go there, it's not the end of the world. But we want to try to do the right job. I think people get worried that they're doing the wrong thing. Don't worry so much about that. Just try to keep focused on the basics, and that's what we'll talk about in a little bit.
Okay. I think that is all for the questions for now, so I'll go ahead and advance the screen.
Okay.
There you go.
I'm waiting for the screen to change.
Oh, what are you seeing?
I'm still looking. There we go.
Oh,
There
okay.
we go. Was just a little bit of a delay. Some of the fun stuff about the Marathon County Solid Waste Department. Now, some people think, well, it's just a dump, right? Why would I want to go there? Well, it's not a dump. It's a sanitary landfill. We actually have 3 landfills on the site. That map in the lower left, there is an air photo of our site, and all those squiggly lines are recreational trails.
Okay.
We have scores of visitors coming to visit us every week. And in fact, we have tournaments out there of off-road cycling. So we have walking trails, we have hiking trails, we have off-road cycling, and bird watching. So it's a fun part of who we are. And I always like to remind people, even if you don't want to come and visit us to get rid of garbage, you may want to take a nice walk on our Bluebird Nest Box Trail or the Ice Age Trail. So next slide. We also work very closely with the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. I've been adjunct faculty in that program. They have a waste management program. And every year we bring in 3 to 5 interns who help us with not only running our operations, and in the center picture, saving eagles who are injured out at our site, but they also work on all kinds of research projects that advance not only their educational careers, but their careers post-college. And we're very proud of this program. We have had, I think, 37 interns come through our program. All of them are gainfully employed across the United States. So it's a really wonderful program, building capacity in the next generation of those who will manage the waste in the future. Next slide. We also, this is the best part of my job, is when we have students, not only young students, but old students. We've had groups coming who were as old as 80 years old. We had a group of folks from a senior living center come out and visit us. We have children come out and visit us. We have people from around the world, when they're in central Wisconsin, come and visit us. Our environmental education program is massive. We love sharing information on how to reduce waste, how important it is to manage waste properly, and everyone's role in and everyone's role in producing waste. So it's a great program, and my team absolutely loves it when people come and visit us.
Melissa, you mentioned that you are an instructor adjunct with UWSP. So how long ago did this program start as a degreed program at Point, or with the UW system?
Yeah, so the solid waste and it's waste management and soils major, and it's the only baccalaureate degree program in the United States directly related to managing waste. It was established in the late 80s, really came into its own in the 90s and into the early 2000s, and is still there. And some years we've had as many as 30 students in the major. This year there's only 7 in the major, so we hope we see those numbers come back up. We think that we're probably influenced a little bit by COVID, but it's a great major, and the placement out of that program is 100%.
Wonderful. Okay.
All right, now we'll talk a little bit more about the evolution of recycling, and we'll go to the next slide. Because like I said, it's always changing. That's why I love my job. No 2 days are the same, ever, 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 ever. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I cannot recall 2 days the same. Just like my job being different every day, the world of recycling changes. When we first started with the recycling law back in 89 through 96 is when those first iterations came out. It was very different then. We thought that if we banned everything from landfills, we would create markets for the materials we were banning from landfills. We would divert all of this material and magically everything would turn into new things. It was a good idea and it's had very positive consequences. We recycle in the state about 750,000 to 1,000,000 ton of recyclables a year. That's a great thing. Those things are not headed to landfills. They're off for productive use somewhere else. The recycling law is based on landfill bans, and there you can see the statutory citation. So the narrow list, as was requested before, these are the items that are banned from landfill disposal and therefore must be recycled. Number 1 and 2, plastic containers, glass containers, steel cans, aluminum cans, cardboard, newspapers, magazines, and office paper. Those are the absolute bans. Now, number 3 through 7's plastic used to be banned from landfills, but there are very few markets. So those are waived from the bans. And again, why do we recycle? We all know this. We know that it saves resources, whether it's oil in the production of plastics, or it saves forests from being chopped down to produce new newspapers or cardboard or toilet paper. And in Wisconsin, well, as in the rest of the United States, but in Wisconsin in particular, there are close to 13,000 jobs directly related to recycling. And we're talking paper mills and foundries and those folks that are coming along at the street picking up your recycling. So it's about economic development. And then there's primary and secondary, tertiary economic impacts from recycling. So it's good for the environment, but it's also good for our economy. Next slide.
Okay.
So you've probably heard a lot about China not taking our recycling anymore. And there were a lot of stories about 2 years ago. Recycling was in crisis. Oh my God, what are we going to do? The Chinese cut us off from our recycling markets. Well, what happened was in 2014, and much of our recyclables indeed have gone to the Asian markets, China, Indonesia, Vietnam, and India. And in fact, in 2008, I believe it is, maybe 2009, I'd have to check that fact, our number 1 export was post-consumer materials, so our garbage, our recycling, to China. It was our number 1 export. But with all of those recyclables that we were sending to China, we were also sending non-recyclable material, which is garbage, crap, things that they couldn't use in the production of new things. So in 2014, the Chinese issued a memorandum to the World Trade Organization and said, hey, world, we'll take your recyclables, we'll make them into new products, but you've got to send us less garbage. The world didn't listen. We kept sending garbage basically to China. And finally in 2017, they said, we're done. And they issued National Sword. And that said, they will no longer accept any recyclables, any materials, post-consumer materials from the world, unless it had less than 0.5% contamination. So 0.5% garbage. This upended the recycling world. And in many ways, you have to ask yourself, if we had to send our recyclables, particularly hard to recycle recyclables like plastic film and other things like that, halfway around the world, is that a positive environmental outcome? And it's a huge debate in our industry. And that's why we have been so adamant about creating local, regional, and national markets for these materials, rather than sending them halfway around the world, using up all of those resources, only to have them thrown away in a landfill in Xi'an, China. So next slide. And the reason this is so important when we talk about markets is because, the tin can is just a tin can. You put it in the recycling. Well, that's only part of the story. it has to go somewhere. It has to have an infrastructure, a transportation infrastructure, and a manufacturing infrastructure to make it into something else. If that tin can doesn't have value for a manufacturer to be made into something else, it's basically garbage. So those markets for those hard to recycle things were critical in being able to get more things out of landfills. So when I talk about markets, when I talk about end users, they're key in this, because you can want to recycle all you want, but if a foundry or a paper mill or a plastic extruder isn't able to use it, it's garbage. So because of National Sword and because of changes globally in the evolution of recycling, it's more important than ever that we learn how to recycle right. And again, I know people want to do the right thing. I'm telling you this not to scare you that if you do it wrong, it's going to destroy recycling. What I'm saying is you play a big role, all of you, I do, we all do, in working to make sure we can have the best outcome with recycling. We're the quality control folks. You know, if you ever worked in a factory, there was always this person walking around with a clipboard, right? And that person was making sure that quality control was being managed. And this is what we do in our kitchens or in our workplace. We're the quality control specialists to make sure we're all right, recycling right. Next slide. So this gets us to, oops, yeah.
What did I do?
Oh, you got overexcited.
I guess I did.
Yeah, what? There you go.
There we go. Thank you.
So this gets into the term that we use in the industry of wish cycling. Last year, before COVID struck, this was in February, I was at a local food fair with my colleague from Portage County. And we had a table set up helping, talking with folks about recycling. And this is what we would hear. And this is what we would hear. We recycle everything at our house. And my colleague and I were like, palms slapped to the forehead, and our eyes would roll back on our forehead. Please do not recycle everything. This is called wish cycling. People want very, very badly to do the right thing. And they want very, very badly to recycle because we all want to do the right thing to preserve resources, to do the right thing for the environment, and again, to do the right thing for economic development. However, some things just cannot be recycled. And if we wish it to be recycled, like, I was in Rome and I threw my coin in the Trevi fountain, wishing that I was 5'10" and 20 pounds lighter and 10 years younger. That didn't happen. I guarantee it. And so when we wish that when we put something in the recycling bin, that something magical happens, that is actually very detrimental to the recycling system. So again, it gives a couple of items. This is right from Waste Management's website. Things like styrofoam, polystyrene, plastic straws, plastic bags, the dinnerware that we use at events, the plastic, the single use, they just cannot be recycled. The coffee pods they are not recyclable for a number of reasons. They are just not recyclable. Next slide.
They're so popular, the Keurig, 1 cups and.
Yep. And actually, you can buy now the little reusable baskets for your Keurig cup.
Yep.
But the man who produced Keurig, his last name is Keurig, he now wishes he never had done that. Because, and here's the quick skinny on the Keurig cups. They are made of 3 different resins. So there are 3 different plastic resins, all kind of fused together. One to keep the coffee fresh, one to resist heat so they don't melt, and the other is for it to hold its form. Those 3 things are fused together, and there's no way to break them apart. Mm-hmm. And even if we could, anything 3 inches or smaller, so in other words, hold your fist up. If the product you want to throw in the recycling bin is smaller than your fist, and again, about 3 inches, it will not go through the recycling process because there are screens. So all kinds of conveyor systems and rollers. And in that manufacturing process of sorting out your recycling, everything 3 inches or smaller falls out of what they call the screens and end up as garbage. So the coffee pods, because they're fused plastic, and the coffee pods because they are going to be less, or they're going to be smaller than your fist.
I did notice styrofoam, and I knew you had mentioned something last time about somewhere to take your styrofoam in the area. Is that still a store that takes styrofoam? Is there a place?
Actually, it's not a store. It's Styrene Corporation
That's
in Weston. However, they are no longer accepting post-consumer polystyrene for
Okay.
Recycling. COVID shut that down. I don't know if they intend to open that back up.
Okay, thank you.
So to help you and me and my neighbors better understand how we can all recycle right, I began working with my colleague in Portage County. Her name is Amanda, and the folks at Recycling Connections, which is the state's best recycling education and outreach organization. And we created what we call the Central Wisconsin Recycling Collective. Our entire mission, again, working as a region to provide information to help people solve this sometimes complicated evolution of recycling. We began this program about the basic question: to bin or not to bin. And again, kind of a little play on Shakespeare there. Sorry for any of you Shakespeare purists. But to bin or to not to bin, because how many times you stand there in the garage and you go, do I put it in the bin? Do I put it in the garbage? So to bin or not to bin is the primary sort of goal, to provide information. And Central Wisconsin Recycling Collective is the group that has really spent a lot of time doing this outreach. You can find us on Facebook. There are great tips there. We find us on our webpage, or you can call us on our toll-free number. And any of those resources are at your fingertips. It is paid for through the Marathon County Solid Waste Department. Once again, we're using our revenues, our profits from landfill disposal to help the region recycle right. Next slide. Next slide, Susan.
Oh, I did.
Maybe it's just a delay.
It's the one that says to bin, recycle, curbside.
There we go.
Okay.
Yep. So this is pretty much what you need to know. Stop looking at all of those recycling chasing labels. You've got your containers, your glass containers, including mason jars, your tin cans, your aluminum beverage cans. All of those things can go into the bin. And as the note says, empty and rinse. They don't have to have the labels off. They don't need to be perfectly clean. My colleague Amanda says if you've got a mayonnaise jar or a peanut butter jar, use a spatula. Give it a quick wipe with the spatula. It can then go into the recycling bin. I did a presentation once, years ago, and this woman said, I run all of my recycling containers through the dishwasher before I put them in the recycling bin. I'm like, oh my goodness, you don't have to do that. Just keep them as clean as you possibly can. You don't have to be perfect. All of those paper products, newspapers, the cereal boxes, the 12-pack boxes, junk mail, office paper, anything paper. No, you don't have to take the cellophane windows out. You don't have to do any of that. Those can go in the recycling bin. Your cardboard, of course, flatten it because you just want to make sure it doesn't take up a lot of room. And when it comes to plastics, and this is why we say don't look at the chasing arrows, plastics from your kitchen, laundry, or bath. If you have plastic containers coming from your kitchen, laundry, or bath, they can go in the recycling bin. No need to look for the chasing arrows. Again, you can see the exclusions there, no bags. Don't put food soaked materials like cardboard pizza boxes in the recycling bin. No clothing, no tanglers. A lot of people think because old Christmas lights are recyclable, but they are not recyclable in the bin. They actually need to go to a salvage yard. So no tanglers. So if we keep focused on those aluminum, steel, and glass bottles and containers, all of those mixed papers, cardboards, and those plastics from our kitchen, laundry, and bath, we will do a huge, huge plus to recycling right. Next slide.
Do you see it?
Nope, it just takes a little bit.
It says not to bin.
Not to bin. Yes. So we talked a little bit about what not to bin, like the tanglers and the plastic. Another one that people really want to put in the recycling bin are electronics, because electronics are very recyclable, right? Very, very recyclable. Do not put your old cell phones or your electronic devices into the recycling bin, or scrap metals or tires, all of those things that you see on the slide here. They are recyclable, but they are recyclable only in the right drop-off location. And again, if you don't know the right drop-off location, give us a call. I guarantee you my staff will be able to point you in at least one, and many times 3, 4, 5 different options to help you out.
There are a couple questions,
Sure.
Melissa. First one is, this last slide would be nice to make for the public to put on your refrigerator, like a nice refrigerator magnet. Someone suggested.
Yeah, well, we actually have been trying to work with municipalities to get those out in mailers with their tax bills. And I believe we've got about 8 or 9 municipalities that are already sending these out. If we were, and I'm not sure if we're going to be at the fair this summer. I don't know if, what that's going to look like. But in the past, we have had this on magnets, and we've distributed them usually at the fair. Or in situations like this, if we were meeting in person, I would probably have something for you. But yes, it's great to have on the refrigerator, but right now we're kind of in between trying to figure out how best to do that. That's why we're trying to push people to the online resources.
Okay. And the other question from Sue is, what about half-gallon almond milk containers?
So the gable top packaging, which is what I'm assuming you're referring to, we tried really, really hard to find markets for the gable top packaging. And we worked with the manufacturers. A group called the Carton Council really wants to try and figure out how to get those gable top packaging back into the recycling stream. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we cannot find a paper mill that's willing to take them. The gable top packaging, very much like the Keurig cups, are a blend of a couple of different things. They are paper, very recyclable. They also have a thin layer, typically of some kind of metal, aluminum, or a polymer, so a plastic, and then there's another plastic coating. So right now, we thought we had a mill in Green Bay that had the capability of being able to take and separate out the plastic and any aluminum liner from the paper, and now they said no, it's not cost effective for us. So for now, gable top packaging has to go into the garbage.
Okay. All right, I think that was the last of those questions. Let's go to the next slide. And I did forward it. I don't know if you see it.
Yep, I do see it. Thank you. This is from our Facebook page, the Central Wisconsin Recycling Collective. And that's why I'm trying to push everybody to like our Facebook page, the Central Wisconsin Recycling Collective, because there are videos there on neat little tricks to help you recycle better or upcycle something. We post these all the time on things not to bin to help people understand. It's a great resource. As you can see, the takeout packages, of course, are not recyclable. Even the paper ones, they are not recyclable. You may be able to put them in your backyard compost bin if you have a hot enough compost bin to keep them processed. We worked very hard for a long time to try and get hardcover books in the recycling stream. Unfortunately, once again, the mills said this is just too problematic for our digesters and we don't want them. So no hardcover books. Now, if you're bored on a snowy afternoon and you've got a bunch of old hardcover books and you've got an X-Acto knife or a scissors, or you just want to rip the heck out of those old books, the paper is recyclable, but the hardcover outside, it is not. All of your stuff for the holidays or for special events that you're going to be using to wrap things, to decorate, those cannot go in the recycling bin. The juice boxes, the flexible pouches that are so popular now with young parents, because, I mean, when I was raising my kids, baby food was in a jar. Now it's in a flexible pouch. That jar was very recyclable. Nowadays, they want something cool and sexy, and they have flexible pouches, and guess what? It's not recyclable. If they had kept it in jars, we could recycle it. Wow. The center one, of course, is the bubble wrap, not recyclable. And then the far bottom right is that blister pack, those clamshell packaging, not recyclable.
Okay, there's a question. What about the lids from veggie cans? They might be under the 3-inch size separate. And what about regular old style light bulbs? Are they garbage?
Good question. So your tin can, whether it's a veggie can, a soup can, a macaroni, or, whatever the case may be, your tin can, you take that lid off. What you do then is take the lid after you've, emptied the contents, put the lid into the can, and then slightly pinch that can out of round at the top. Once that's pinched out of round, that lid will stay inside that can, will not fall off, and will end up going for recycling. Here's another little hint about those tin cans and the lids. Let's say you have a couple of beers on a warm Sunday afternoon, and now you've got those bottle caps. Those bottle caps are steel. You can put those inside of that tin can, then put that can top on there, and once again, pinch it slightly out of round. Those bottle caps will stay inside, and so will that vegetable can lid as well. Bulbs, incandescent bulbs, we can recycle them. We do charge a fee for them, but you have to bring them out to us. They are very, very, very low hazard, and they can go in the garbage. That is the most practical way to manage them. Here's another issue is, we've gone from incandescent bulbs, of course, then the next generation was fluorescent, which had mercury, which is hazardous. And now we've gone with LED. Well, the LED lights are actually problematic as well because they're actually electronics. And in some cases, there's so much lead in the electronic portion of the LED bulb that they too could be hazardous. So, this is that evolution I'm talking about. We go from one sort of thing to the next in our lives. And many times it's driven by consumer demands. We wanted to reduce the amount of electricity we use. So manufacturers found ways to do that. That then means we need to find a way to best manage the outcomes. So, but for now, incandescent bulbs are not required to be recycled. They're minimally have problems in the garbage, and they should go in the garbage.
Okay, and I saw Maureen had her hand up. Would you like to take yourself off mute, Maureen, and ask your question?
Sure. I think I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask anyways. You were talking about the gable top packaging, which I understand. What about those shelf-stable liquid boxes like broth? And now you can get
Mhm.
milk in them, and they have the chasing arrows, but I doubt that they're recyclable.
And you're absolutely right. Those are called aseptic packaging, and they're used widely. You know, I like them. They store nicely in the pantry. In fact, in Europe, the aseptic packaging is used to sell milk. In many cases, if you would go into a grocery store in Europe, you would not find your milk in the dairy aisle and refrigerated section. You'd find it on a shelf in an aseptic packaging. And that's how they reduce their carbon footprint because they don't have to have as much refrigeration. However, once again, you have several liners fused together to help protect the product inside, and it goes into the garbage, at least for now.
Okay. Someone said, I have a container of tar that I will not use. How and where can I dispose of this?
You can give us a call. I'll give you the number and make an appointment to 715-446-3101, extension 103. Or you can go to our website and schedule an appointment. And you can bring it out to us. We schedule appointments Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 3:30. So whenever you're out in the area and you want to schedule an appointment, come and visit us. You can drop it off and we'll make sure that it's taken care of.
Okay, I did put the phone number in the chat. Again, that was 715-446-3101, extension 103.
That is correct. That goes right to the scale desk.
Okay.
All
I think
right.
that's it for questions for now. I'll go to the next slide.
Next slide. Yep.
There we go.
All right, here are to bin. This is again coming from our Facebook page. I keep going here. Central Wisconsin Recycling Collective Facebook page. Please, go there, like it. You will find just tons of resources, good information, funny information, which will help you all figure out what to bin and what not to bin. This is a great example, that one in the upper left, and this is where I had a long conversation. If any of you know Rocket Industrial, it is a packaging design company in Wausau, and they do great things. They're working very hard to minimize the amount of packaging waste they have for their customers. But the one thing that they designed is for our craft breweries. And so our craft breweries, of course, they'll do small batches and then they've changed their product. Now they have a new product they need to put in a can. So they needed a way to have this rotation of advertising on the can of what was inside. So they took the aluminum can and they put a plastic sleeve on the outside. That plastic sleeve then can rotate out based on whatever product they're going to put into it. However, what's happened is, whether it's plastic or paper, they've taken an aluminum can, which can be recycled into perpetuity. It is the most recyclable thing on the face of the earth. And the minute you put that paper around it or that plastic sleeve, it becomes non-recyclable, because the recycling foundry or the aluminum foundries are very picky about the quality of the aluminum coming in. So if you enjoy craft brews and in your refrigerator right now, you've got a can and it's got a sleeve, after you're done enjoying that beverage, please take that sleeve off and put that aluminum can in the recycling bin. And again, all of your magazines, your inserts in the newspaper, in the recycling bin, cottage cheese containers, yogurt containers in the bin. You can leave the top on. That's just fine. All of those pumps that you get, whether it's hand sanitizer or lotion, in the bin, you can leave the cover on them because that best contains any residual product inside. Shredded paper, if you haven't done it before, please don't put it in plastic bags. Put it in a paper bag, fold over the top, either staple it or even wrap a piece of packaging tape around it. put it in the recycling bin. Please do not put loose shredded material in the recycling bin. It will become confetti when it is tipped onto the tipping floor or when it goes up a conveyor. I've seen it where like there's this cloud of confetti. You think it was a ticker tape parade. And even those down in that bottom right-hand corner, we burn a lot of candles in our household. And once that wax is gone out of there, that candle container, that candle glass can go right in the recycling bin. Next slide. Again, a lot of ways to reach us. I talked about Central Wisconsin Recycling Collective. You can find us on Facebook. If you just want to come to the Marathon County Solid Waste Department and ask these questions, we're here for that too. You can stop by for a visit. That's that big sign I told you about. You can call us at our toll-free number or the number I gave Susan, which she provided for you. You can find the Marathon County Solid Waste Department on Facebook. We have a website. We're here to serve you. If you have those questions and you have a bit of anxiety about something, you got this thing, you bought it and you don't know what to do with it, give us a call. We're here to help. We don't want you to have that anxiety. We have a team of resources and we're here to help you recycle right and reduce the amount of waste we all produce.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, I see somebody's hand is held up. So anybody that would like to ask a question, you can put it in the chat if you haven't done already, or raise your hand. And Randy, if you want to take yourself off of mute, you are certainly, it's your chance to ask your question. Let's see if I can actually take him off mute.
Okay, I got it.
There we go. Okay.
Habitat Humanity will take Christmas lights and any electrical cords.
Yep. Thank you for that reminder. I do work with Habitat quite a bit because sometimes Habitat gets things that well-intentioned people drop off for them that cannot be managed through their store. But yeah, great resource, not only for trying to reduce the amount of waste going to landfills to drop off, but also to go shop. So yeah, Habitat's a great opportunity. Thank you for that.
Yes, thanks, Randy. I wasn't aware of that. I know about the Good News Project and some things that they recycle, but I wasn't aware of that. And Randy, did you have another question or comment?
Yeah, we recycle all of that material throughout the recycling. So far this year, we've recycled almost 2 tons of Christmas lights.
Oh,
wow, nice.
word. Wow, that's fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, I don't see anybody else. Give it a, oh, I do see somebody. Okay, somebody with the initials of DP. Okay, Diane. Go ahead, Diane. You can take yourself off mute.
Are you familiar with the City of Wausau recycling app?
I am. Actually, Marathon County Solid Waste Department was an early investor in that app. And we helped the app designer create that product.
And is there, I have trouble trying to access it. I just can't seem to get it.
It's a massive database. And again, it gets down to scanning that barcode. I know Michelle and her team work very hard to make sure it's up to date. But if you're still having problems, send me an email and I can connect with the app designer and see if we can help you out.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I put your email in the chat, Melissa?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. And I think a question came through.
Yep.
What's the cost for recycling tires?
I'm trying to remember. Just a minute. I have to look at this computer screen because I work a number of computer screens here. don't recall, and now, oh, I don't, no, I don't have it. I believe it's five. Darn, can I send that to you?
Yes.
Again, I don't, this is what happens when you're the boss. You don't know anything. It's the people who work there that actually do everything. So my staff would know this off the top of their head. I believe that automotive tires are $6 each. And then that we also manage everything up to semi-truck tires, as well as tractor tires for large equipment. But I think it's $5 or $6 per tire for automotive.
What I'm going to do is send out a short survey to everybody that has attended today, and I'm going to include just because once we get out of this, presentation, the information I put in the chat is gone. So I will put the Central Wisconsin Cycling Collective.com. I'll put that in there. I'll put your email address, contact information. What else? Oh, and then if you thought the tires were $6, you said.
Yep, I'll verify that. Again, you can find that at marathoncountysolidwaste.org. We do have our price list there as well.
Excellent. All right, I see some thank you for the information. Thanks to both of you. This was very informative, and I appreciate all the sites to go to for more information. All right, well, I think that we're a little over 2 o'clock, but thank you so much for your time, Melissa, and thank you everybody for joining us. I always find this presentation so interesting. It is fascinating.
I think because it changes, and
Yes.
it's not static, and that's why it engages people, and we all want to do the right
We
thing.
all want to do the right thing. That's exactly right.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you folks again, and expect an email from me with a short survey, and I'll share that information with you, Melissa, once I get that back as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. You're a great audience, and I, again, love this opportunity.
All right. Thank you. Have a great
Thanks.
afternoon.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.